Oh, wait, what's the fun part?
Politics.
He's
shoot.
like, I missed that. He's like, let me.
Okay,
He's
I'm
like,
good now.
I looked through that and I did not see any fun questions on there, so I don't know what y'all are talking about.
This is good. I'm politics. I can do this
your,
all day.
Your wheelhouse. So you were the press secretary for Jeff Landry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to kind of walk us through from that point to now and your journey and what you do and everything that goes with it?
Absolutely. So I moved to Baton Rouge in August of 2020 to be the press secretary for the Attorney General's office and the Department of Justice here in Louisiana. And, that was what you expect it to be. I mean, I wasn't like doing press briefings like at the White House or anything like that. But, just taking media requests, scheduling interviews, answering questions. I mean, there's a lot of things that the Department of Justice does that a lot of people don't know about or is very localized. So we might have arrested someone or gave an opinion on something in this small town. And then, this small town reporter asking me a very detailed question about something about a place I'd never heard of. So, just kind of tracking down the information and making sure we're giving them the accurate answer. And fortunately or unfortunately, when Biden got elected, we sued him a lot.
I would imagine.
And we won a lot.
Yeah.
So oil and gas and a lot of those big cases got a lot of national attention. And Liz Muriel, who's our attorney general now, argued a lot of those cases. Some of them went to Supreme Court on COVID vaccines. There's ones on government censorship on Facebook. I got to sit in the interview with Anthony Fauci, the deposition of Anthony Fauci.
Oh my goodness! Wow,
that was a really cool.
That's
experience.
really cool.
And so did all that, and then in 2023, Jeff Landry announced he's running for governor. The end of 2022, he announced he's running for governor right after we had met. And then he asked me to be his campaign manager for the 2023 cycle. So we did that. That was an awesome experience. Probably like one of the bucket list thing I wanted to do was be a campaign manager on a statewide.
One of successful campaigns.
And we won, so that's even better. And
on top.
we won in the first primary, which was a big deal down here. And then got the opportunity to work on the transition team, which was another cool experience. Never really done something like that before, and went through the inauguration and then joined the LA GOP, the Republican Party here, as the executive director. We got a new chairman, and he had helped us out a lot on the governor's race, and we had known each other, and he had asked if I'd be interested in coming on board, and so I've been here almost April will be a year.
Nice. Very good. So we were actually kind of curious what that entails. Like, what does your role in your position, what do you do on a day-to-day?
It changes from a day-to-day basis, which I kind of like. It's kind of like campaign work, but a little bit different. So, I mean, the core things of what we do is as a Republican Party is our job is to support Republicans, help get Republicans elected. So that's the overarching thing. We do have an executive committee, and we have a state central committee, which is about 230 members that meet quarterly. So logistically, we have to have 3 to 4 meetings a year. So me and our staff, we kind of make sure that those meetings happen and schedule them and go through the bylaws and rules and all that type of stuff. When elections come around, our job is to help get Republicans elected. And in Governor Landry's race, the party played a really big role because they gave him an early endorsement, which allowed certain funding mechanisms to come into place. And in Louisiana, at least, the state parties can operate like a political PAC, but can coordinate with the candidates. So most political PACs can't do that.
Right.
So it's not a PAC, but it can operate kind of like a PAC. And so it's a big advantage to have the party's endorsement. And it helps the governor's race tremendously, especially from a fundraising standpoint. So now the party's has a little bit more pull now.
Well, the last time I was in town, trying to remember when exactly that was. It was late last year. It was around Christmas last year in December, when a new mayor.
That's right.
For the city of Baton Rouge was elected, and he is the first Republican in a while, right?
He was the first Republican elected in 19 years.
Wow.
And he got the state party endorsement, and we were able to raise quite a bit of money for him and on his behalf. And it's a funny story. He got in the race like on the last day of qualifying, never held political office. He's a football coach.
That's right.
Wow.
And pretty successful football coach,
Yeah.
strong man of faith. And just kind of his whole message was, if God wants me to have it, we'll get there. And,
My goodness.
no one thought he was going to make the runoff.
Wow.
He got first place in the runoff. I mean, early on, I didn't think this guy had a chance for me. And I've told him this.
Yeah.
But, it was the way the country was going, the state was going.
Yeah.
People were ready for change. He was running against a 2-term Democrat mayor and
Broom.
just Mayor Broom. And people just wanted change, and he was the change agent. He's doing a great job. We're really proud of him, excited for him.
I actually was here the night the votes were coming in and that they announced him as
Awesome.
mayor. Yeah, so I was sitting in my dad's house. He always has the news on. And so I was like, oh, I didn't know you guys had like a mayoral race going. He's like, yup.
Yeah.
He was obviously very happy.
We were very excited. And Coach Sid, he's a great guy. And
Where did he coach?
Streama High School. I mean, he's been a coach for over 20 years, but most recently in Streama High School. And,
Nice.
They had a really phenomenal season this year too. They won a couple games at the end that they weren't supposed to win, so it's kind of,
I guess we can chalk it up to God.
I was like, this guy's gonna be the mayor president, because like his teams, he told me like this, we're gonna play hard, but like this team's pretty good, and they won, and he won, and it was
Keep bringing that energy.
it was an exciting time for him. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
It is. It's a neat story.
You had mentioned before when we first got started that you came down to Louisiana because you accepted a position as press secretary. Before that, you had spent time in Maryland, I believe?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Maryland. All my family's up there. And so I started in politics in 2015.
Okay.
I was working for a guy, Mark Plaster, who was running for Congress at the time. Unfortunately, we lost that race. But we had a Republican governor at the time that he was running. This was the 2016 cycle, so when Trump was running and all that.
Wow.
So a lot of attention on the federal side of things. Right. So unfortunately we lost, but the governor had endorsed us previously, and he was up for re-election and asked me to help out on his re-election campaign. Wow. So we did that for about 2 years, and I was the 2018 election cycle that he won his re-election, and it was only the second time in Maryland history that a Republican had gotten reelected.
Well, I was just about to say, Maryland and Republican? Interesting. So have you always been a Republican?
I would say I've always been conservative.
Okay, great way to put that.
I was a registered Democrat when I turned 18, because that's what my family, that's what we did.
Gotcha.
Right, yeah.
And but I actually didn't, my first election was the 2016 election cycle. I was a registered Democrat, and kind of in college I was working on a project about the 2016 presidential elections, and there wasn't a whole lot of candidates on the Democratic side, so a lot of my research was on the Republicans. So, just looking at I was like studying like their social medias and stuff like that, and it just I was like, yeah, this all kind of makes sense to me, or whatever. And then I went to the Naval Academy in Annapolis, and I actually got med dropped from the academy the week before I graduated. So I graduated from the academy from a scholastic standpoint, but did not serve in the military after that. Okay. So I was kind of figuring out what I was going to do with life, and go ahead.
Were you expecting to go the military route?
Oh yeah.
Had you not been?
Oh yeah, I was gonna be a naval flight officer, like a backseat pilot guy, like you see Top Gun. I wanted to be like Goose.
Aww.
And but yeah,
God had
different plans. Yeah. And so I was going dinner with a friend, and I saw this campaign RV, and for this guy named Mark Plaster, and so I kind of reached out to him. I researched what he was about and all that kind of stuff. And his son, he had a really interesting story. His son was a Naval Academy graduate. He had joined the Navy at 50 years old as a reservist. Wow. Him and his son were deployed at the same time. And it's like one of the few father-son do. It was a very interesting, he was a business owner, he's an ER doctor. Like he's great. It's still a really good friend of mine. Matter of fact, him and his wife came down to Baton Rouge a couple weeks ago to come visit for a little bit. So anyway, I was like, I can help this guy out while I'm waiting to find a job. Ended up volunteering for a couple months, got on the staff kind of full time. And as we were going through all that, I was like, well, I should probably register Republican so I could vote for him in the primaries. Because in Maryland, we had closed primaries in Maryland. So I was like, I can just do that. And as I looked at it, I was like, I've always been raised conservative, and I think, nowadays people want to talk about how do we get more African Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, whatever, to be Republican. I was like, well, I don't know about me, but like in my community, I've always been raised conservative. I mean, my dad took me to the pro-life march in DC when I was like 9 years old.
That's amazing.
I was raised in a church. We were raised, to always go to church. We were raised very conservative, other than
Conservative values,
our
right?
voter registration. So I would say I've not always been a Republican, but I've always been conservative.
No, I'm glad that you made that distinction, because I think if someone were to ask me, I would answer in the same way, because a political party, there's always like over history, there's been swaps for a political party. So I just don't think there's much value to identifying yourself as belonging to a specific party. I think it does boil down to your ideology and the values that you hold. Because I recently had a friend who asked me, she's on the other side, and pretty significantly, like, we're as far away from each other as you could imagine. And she asked me, she's like, we were watching the inauguration, the beginning of it this year, and she was very gracious. It was my apartment, but I had her at my house, and she was like, "Do you want to put it on?" And I was like,
Kind of.
I was looking at her. I was like, "Are you sure?"
Well, I was also blasting your phone. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
And of course, I want to
Listen
watch
this.
it.
Oh my gosh.
I want to watch it, but I really try to be respectful of other people's opinions,
Right.
because
That's
she's
very
a
kind of
good
you.
friend of mine,
Right.
and I didn't want to make her uncomfortable. I opened my home to her. I was trying to be a hostess and be gracious, but she was gracious towards me. She's like, put it on. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And so we got to talking. We had some clarifying conversations. And, as I was talking, she said, okay, so it really is your values. And I was like, yes. It's not because I love Orange Man bad. Like, I see what he's doing and I see his vision, but it's not just about him either. It's about the people around him.
Absolutely.
And his administration. It's about people on the state level, on the local level. It's just about the values you hold and what you're voting in and the policies that you're expecting from these people. So, I mean, I'm really glad that you corrected me and saying, well, no, I've been a conservative, not necessarily a Republican.
And I tell people all the time too that you're way more affected by who your mayor is than you are president. Now, don't get me wrong, the president of the United States is a very important job, and
Yes.
we should vote 100%.
Yeah.
But if you think about your day-to-day life, the president of the United States ain't fixing those roads right there.
Right.
They're not, doing the local public safety stuff. It's, your parish presidents, county executives, state legislators, all that type of stuff. And, but no, I think you're absolutely right. I think, it's a lot of us versus them right now, but I think a lot of people. I had a friend the other day that decided to unfollow me on Instagram, and apparently, according to them, it had been a long time coming, and whatever I had posted was like the last straw. But that's okay. Hey, he's a great guy. Love him to death.
I think all three of us at this table have probably experienced plenty of unfollows.
But
Plenty of that.
it's just funny because back in Maryland, some of my very good friends are diehard Democrats, diehard liberals, and sometimes they'll like say things about Republicans.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm a Republican, right? Well, not you, but like you're.
I get that all the time, not you.
But like you're like a cool one or whatever, something like that.
Okay, we should get to know the rest of us because we're all pretty cool.
I was like, listen, like you know me. Some of my family members, you know me. You've practically raised me.
Yeah.
Do you think I believe that? Like, do you think I act like that?
Yeah.
They're like, no. Well, then you can't say
Why
that.
are you generalizing?
You're
that?
generalizing something because one person said something one time, and
Well, we've been. I say we, but us as a nation, the media has done a really good job of telling the general public of what to believe about a specific person, and it's all based off of lies. And I feel bad for people who don't have the ability to discern what the truth is and what it isn't. I think that's where a lot of that comes from. Is they're just not told the right things. Because we're all. I mean. I have friends who are liberals who I don't even think about that unless it's brought up in conversation by them. I don't think about what you believe in on a day-to-day basis.
yeah. I think there's a lot more that unites us than divides us. And like, look, I like sports. I like fishing. I like hanging out. You want to go shoot some guns or hunting? Sign me up. Like, I want to learn all that, and we can bond on all that before we even touch politics. And I think sometimes you can agree to disagree too. I mean,
I do that quite often. Quite often. I don't know about you, but
Agree to disagree?
yes.
Oh, yeah. You have to.
Just put it on the table and be like, you know what? We don't have to talk about this.
and I don't hate you because I disagree with you.
Right.
No,
You know,
that's
I
the
just disagree
thing.
with you.
Yeah.
You know, like, you think that jacket looks pretty. I think it looks ugly. I don't, you know, that's it.
Cool.
Yeah.
We're still friends.
Right.
We're still family. You know, like, but
Okay, so in my research from a 2022 Pew Research Center survey, 45% of Americans said the U.S. should be a Christian nation. Only a third thought it currently was one. And 6 in 10 U.S. adults said the founders originally intended America to be a Christian nation. Do you believe the United States is based on Christian values?
Oh, 100%.
Or should be based on Christian values?
Yes, 100% to both.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a huge history buff, but it says in God we trust on our money. You know, I don't think it's hard to show that this country was founded on Christian principles. And in my opinion, people that try to deny that are just,
I think there's bitter.
yeah, I think they're either bitter or just not wanting to face the truth. And
Right.
I think, I mean, there's a lot of countries that have official religions and all that kind of stuff. And I think probably it's good that we didn't have one for a long time, because that's part of the United States was
the
freedom
freedom
of religion.
That's right. Yeah.
But to say that, you know, I think it's clearly obvious that we were started
You
on Christian
can
principles.
be-
And I think it's important that I think some of the problems that you've seen with our country over the last 50 years
Yeah.
are because we've gotten away from those principles. And people
Yeah.
say, well, our history isn't perfect. Well, of course not.
Of course not.
You know, but I still think America's the best country in the world. And I thank God every day that I wake up here and was born here. Great. And I think, you know, just in my own personal life, I think every time I recenter myself to God, things get better in my life. And I think
It's the
when we do that as a
thing.
country, things get better
Yeah.
Right.
for the country.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Well, and I think we kind of discussed, we feel like we're seeing that right now. Like the past, 4 years under the Biden administration was really a push to keep Christianity so far out. I mean, it was just pushing it out as much as possible.
Like to the extreme. Like
Yeah.
I know you said the last 50 years, and that's true. That's really when you started to see the shift in the opposite direction. But the last 4 years was like if that wasn't them cramming stuff down our throats, that just did not align.
It was just blatant. It was very blatant.
So obvious.
Yeah.
And then already we feel like there's been so many things kind of ushered in to bring Christianity back into
Oh yeah.
America.
What was that pastor at the inauguration? He was the last one to pray.
The one that got fiery.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I know.
Oh,
You
it
sent it to me.
was
I
such
think.
a good prayer.
He went,
Yeah.
oh man, I
Yeah.
felt like the Holy Spirit was moving in my
I
apartment.
was like, we might went a little long, kind of like we're in church, but I liked what he was saying.
But I liked
But,
it.
yeah.
I think even Trump was just like,
Yeah.
you could see him in the background, like standing. He was like,
Let him go.
yeah.
Keep on doing his thing. How do you think your faith helps you in the political world, like handling difficult situations?
I think if you look at when I first got into politics, what I am now, my faith plays a bigger role now than it did back then. I think, well, obviously it helps. I think I can remember times in the governor's race, I was in my office, stressed out, praying the rosary, just trying to calm myself down. I need to do this more, but I used to go to like weekly mass, or daily mass, like during the week. I'm like once or twice a week, just to get away from the campaign and actually my life got, like, my work product was better. I was more enjoyable to be around when I
Set
did
a good
this.
tone for your day.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I think it plays a big role for me, I think, because it's like a lens that I look through life out of now. And for me, I think in a lot of ways, I think I saw my identity in my politics, and not necessarily being a Republican or conservative, but my candidate's the best candidate, and all that matters is winning this race because this is what I need to do, and this is what I was hired to do, and blah, blah, blah. And now I still see people that are like that. And I'm just like, man, like this politics, like elections are important. They're very important, but they're not eternal.
But it's, yeah, exactly. It's of this world, and it's going to go away at some point.
So, I mean, I think just being reconnected to my faith has just shifted priorities for me, I think. And I don't think I still like what I do. But the way I see it, I was never supposed to be doing politics to begin with. So I'm kind of playing with house money. So just trying to find, faith reminds me that there's more in life than just the Republican Party of Louisiana, than the governor, attorney general. And when you think of it that way, that's helpful.
Yeah. And kind of continuing on with that, when you're saying, you know, God is eternity, right? Like that's really what matters. But then some people now I think kind of use it as this mindset of, okay, well, like God is sovereign. I'm just going to like bury my head in the sand. I'm not going to worry about politics. I'm not going to vote. Like God's in control. I'm just going to give it up to him. What can we say to encourage people like that of why they do need to participate in politics? Because Christians can have such a big say.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a couple of things. One, I think you see what happens when Christians don't get involved in politics.
Right.
Under the last 4 years we had. So that's exhibit A. Another thing I would say is God is 100% in control. That's absolutely true. But it's like the story of the flood or the guy in the hole, and the guy, somebody walks by and is like, need some help. And he's like, no, God's going to save me. And then someone else comes like, you need help? No, God's going to save me. He's like, well, yeah, God's going to save you, but I sent you 3 people to get you out of the hole, right? Yeah. So, God is in control, but we have a government. The Bible talks about the government and leaders and render to Caesar what is Caesar's and all that. If you want to be successful in your job and your careers, like you don't just wake up one day, you're on a podcast, right? So I mean, like in anything else in life, there's some action you have to take to get what you want or to achieve what you want. So why would voting or being involved in, look, I'm a firm believer of you have to be the change you want to see in the world. Like we need more people of faith, of real faith, to be involved in politics. I mean, you look at, our friends on the left that are pushing boys playing girls sports and multiple genders and those things. Not knocking those people. Some of them are Christians, whatever, but that's not part of our faith. That's not in the Bible. And if they think it is, that's a problem. We need people of faith to step up and run for mayor, run for city council, vote, and hold people, because every politician wants one thing, to get reelected. And they will listen to the constituency that is the loudest and has the biggest voting block. And certainly down here in the South, there's a lot of believers. Right. And if they stand up and say, no, we're not standing for this, or no, we want you to keep doing what you're doing, we support you, it's powerful.
It could have a lot to say.
It's really powerful.
We saw that in the last election, right?
Yeah.
I think
Christians showed up.
I think that there's a lot more work to do, and I think that we can continue to show up in bigger ways. But I think we played a major role in getting Trump reelected.
And I think Trump did a really good job of making that a priority for his campaign, too. I know a guy that was kind of in charge of the faith outreach on the Trump campaign. And it was a concerted effort. It wasn't just one of these coalitions like we're going to make a Facebook page and,
like show face kind of thing.
Yeah, like, no, he met with pastors and they did meetings and they went to churches, and it was an intentional effort. And I think it was important for Trump to do that. But again, I think the main reason for Christians to get involved in politics is the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Like those things don't happen if we vote.
Exactly.
Show up and vote.
Protecting our future generations.
Yeah. That's the most important one.
And thinking earlier, so you did say you're not going to say one denomination is better than another, and it's not. Like we're all Christian. We all believe in God. We all, at the end of the day, want to end up in heaven.
Right.
There's something that our pastor had said early on in our church about, there are no denominations in hell. Satan doesn't have denominations, right? It's like one unified front trying to attack.
Right.
And we as Christians can get really into almost pitting each other against each other. How do you think Christians can become more unified as far as right now in this political sphere?
I mean, I think we do it the same way that the Republican Party used to do it. You know, Christians are pitting each other against Christians right now. Sometimes the Republicans are pitting each other against other Republicans about who's the most Trump, who's the most Christian, who's the most godly. And I think there's, again, more that unites us than divides us. I think there's a lot more that Republicans, like the run-of-the-mill Republicans, agree on than they don't agree on. I think there's a lot more that Christians agree on than what they don't agree on. Look, I believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Y'all believe that too.
Right.
Let's start with that. Okay. I believe that in the sanctity of life, right? I believe in the sanctity of marriage. I believe that in the nuclear family, right? I think y'all believe that too. We may disagree on how to get there, or we may disagree on what the interpretation of this verse, whatever. But can we agree to vote to help save the babies? Can we do that? Yeah. Let's unite on that, and then let's get that passed. Let's do that, and then after that, we can have a nice, long, heated discussion about, you know, whatever minute thing that doesn't really matter when it comes to, not when it doesn't matter when it comes to the church, but when it doesn't matter when it comes to pushing a conservative Christian agenda forward.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times Christians, sometimes they're too idealistic, if I'm being honest. And frankly, like, it's just not how the world works. I mean, I know with Roe getting overturned, I mean, there's people that thought Roe would never be overturned. We had a big, Attorney General had a big press conference right after it got overturned. And literally that day, like, Roe had been overturned like maybe 5 hours ago. There was this guy that was like, yeah, but what about the abortion pills coming into the state, and we got to stop? Like, dude, something just happened that a lot of us never thought was going to happen
in our lifetime.
And I'm not saying this problem isn't a problem, but like, let's take this win and focus on, and let's like celebrate the win for a second, and then we can fight this problem. But I think that's where we get in trouble is the all or nothing. I'm like, frankly, that's just not how life works.
It's not.
It's incremental changes.
That kind of leads into a question I have, and I want to try and like ask this to each Christian conservative that we get the opportunity to talk with. I recently had dinner with someone who kind of gave me some insight into how Christians, and I'll even say Christian conservatives, can do better at reaching people who might be like, can see where we're coming from, but don't necessarily really agree with us. I'll take abortion, for instance. You know, he's the person I had dinner with, very pro-life, but he said, this position that Christians take isn't always realistic. The reality of abortion is women are hurting. The reality is most people who are in favor of pro-life policies are middle class or high, upper class. A lot of people who get abortions are lower class people who feel like they don't have any other choice. And I think, I'm a very pro-life person, very adamant about that. But we do have to look at a certain level of humanity and understand that, hey, circumstances aren't perfect for everyone. I think we as Christians on the Christian side can have a little bit more grace and compassion for people who feel like they are forced into those situations. And I have to admit, sometimes when I hear arguments in favor of the pro-life stance, it's a little unrealistic and it's a little heartless. I'm not saying that I'm in favor for exceptions or anything like that. I'm just saying it's such a heated topic that I think that the temperature of the discussion can be brought down if we can at least acknowledge, hey, I understand that you come from a community that abortion is the answer for you and you're being told a lie. However, let me introduce you to a community that if you choose life, not only are you saving your child's life, but we're going to put you in a position where you're going to be successful and your child is going to be successful. You're not just advocating for life because we believe in the sanctity of life. We want to see you succeed too. And I just think that that's something that I think we as Christians and conservatives can do better at.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting topic or interesting argument because abortion specifically, it's one of those things, like, let's say you believe that life begins at conception.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what you believe, in order to be intellectually consistent with that argument, you then have to say that, you then have to believe that no abortions are okay ever. If that's what you,
I think it's more of just like having grace for people who like, someone who isn't pro-life.
right. No, I agree.
You know, who, I believe in consistency. Sometimes comes off as hateful and dismissive against people who truly feel like that's their only option.
Right.
How about we kind of just should be a little bit more gentle?
I mean, I think you can, because I mean, I think it's a hard spot because, like, if I believe X, Y, or Z and I feel so strongly about it,
Yeah.
what do you expect me to say?
Yeah.
But I know people that have had abortions, still friends with them, still love them,
course.
and they know my stance on it, right? But I also think it goes back to us as a country, as a culture, as a nation, because, you know, when Roe got overturned here, the Louisiana Right to Life folks kind of really talked about a lot about adoption, because the argument was, well, are you going to start locking up kids that have abortions or moms that have abortions? And like, I don't think that's the answer either, because then if there's a 16-year-old girl out there that gets pregnant and she thinks that if she has the baby, her life is over. If she doesn't have the baby, her life is over because she's going to jail. What other options does she have? Right? I don't think we should be doing that. But I think what we, as Christians, where we come in is why are people getting abortions? Because of an unwanted pregnancy.
Right.
Why are we having unwanted pregnancies? Like, abortion is treating a symptom that's not the actual problem.
Like a larger
The,
issue.
the issue
Right,
is,
right.
I think as Christians and nonprofits and people outside of the political machine, that's where our value is attacking the actual problem. I think the problem is unwanted pregnancies, and we need to talk about why we're having unwanted pregnancies.
That's such a good point,
Yeah.
Cory. Wow. That's a great way to look at it.
It is. I didn't mean to be like confusing because I don't want to confuse you guys. I am pro-life.
No, we don't. No, we know. We know.
Sometimes
You hate the babies. You really are mean, man. Just kidding.
We know you're pro-life.
But I think I like to raise questions that cause people to think and that are thought-provoking. Sometimes I'm looking for an answer to questions I have.
Look, I'll be honest. Sometimes I'm very rash about my beliefs, or
I have been too in the past.
I'm like, you know what? Screw those guys. Like, I'm right, they're wrong, and like whatever. And
Right.
I probably do need to have more compassion on things. I mean, like, you talk about like immigration and gender identity and all that kind of stuff. I mean, look, I can only imagine what it would feel like to feel like you are living in the wrong body.
Right, and that's
I can't comprehend. Like, sometimes I don't know if I'm doing the right job, right? I can only comprehend if I literally felt that I was living in the wrong body.
okay.
That's not a joking matter.
No, especially when like society's sitting there like encouraging you and
Right.
like, telling you, no, you're not in the right body. No, you go get that surgery.
But I think what you just said, like, that goes back to it. Like,
Yeah, the core root of
it
it.
does stem from, like, there's deeper issues of, like, mental illness and
Right.
things like that. So when you said that like totally shifted my whole headspace now. Like, I'm just thinking, wow.
When
yeah.
it goes down to like Christian values.
Like, it
Like,
just,
today, Christian values.
why and like, I don't think God makes mistakes either, right?
Right.
No.
So, if you feel that way, God created you the way you're supposed to be, right? I don't know the theology of, did he create you to think that way? I don't know that. But God made you the way you're supposed to be. So if you feel like you're not that way, let's get to the root cause of why not too long ago, we would have said an individual that felt that way had a mental health issue, and we're gonna, and I'm not saying we gotta medicate them to get like put on Xanax, but
maybe they need therapy or to talk to someone.
But in the last 10 years, it's all become like, oh, like you think you're a girl, you can be a girl now. Like that's again, treating symptoms and not the root.
Right.
The root cause.
I also think there is like a spiritual battle to that too.
Oh, I personally believe there's, well, we might go on a tangent here, but look, I do think there's a lot of spiritual warfare in the world right now, and I think it's gotten into our. I mean, when you're looking at, like, I hate the us versus them analogy, but like, dumb. But it's what I'm also a believer of. You got to play the hand you're dealt, and that's what they're. This is the hand that we're dealt. Is that the left and the liberals want to take away like the nuclear family. They want to have abortions on demand. They want to disrupt man and woman and husband and wife and gender roles and all these things that, look, if a woman wants to, I'm gonna get myself in a lot of trouble here, but if a woman wants to work, if my future wife wants to work, great. I'm supporting her. If she wants to be a stay-at-home mom or whatever, that's great too. It's okay to be one or the other. Yeah. If a woman wants to stay home and take care of the child or do whatever, like that doesn't make them less than a woman.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Or any less, than anything else. And I think, but the left is taking a lot of the things that we believe as Christians, and I find in my Bible that I read, and turning it on their head or perverting it.
It's inversion.
So what else am I supposed to think?
Spiritual.
Because now we're talking about things again that are eternal. Okay. Donald Trump wins an election. Someone else wins an election. That's one thing. But like, the one thing I love about Jeff Landry is one thing I really appreciate about him. I've learned a lot from him is he is unapologetically himself and what he believes. Now you might disagree on his politics, but you cannot say that if that man thinks it's the best thing for the state of Louisiana, that he's not all in. Now you can disagree on what the policy is, but if he believes it's the right thing, he doesn't care who's against it. He's going to go for it. And that's, as Christians, what we have to be. I mean, the other side is loud.
Yes.
They get in our face. I'm not saying we have to be disrespectful.
Right.
But again,
you have to be more bold.
If people talk about getting involved, if they're allowed to tell us that we're bigots and we're insensitive and we don't know what we're talking about and that we don't love,
we're uneducated
and we don't love people, all kind of stuff, I'm allowed to defend myself. Yeah. I'm allowed to say, no, this is what I believe and this is why I believe it. It's okay that you don't believe that, but you're not going to attack me for disagreeing with you.
Right. That's really hard for people, though. Even for me. The day that Trump won, I was so terrified to post anything. I didn't want to make anyone mad. And then I had so many people posting how upset they were. They were so upset. And I was just paralyzed to post because I was
I wore a MAGA hat for a week.
See, I finally did, and I had to just shake that off because the first time around I had no cares, and then this time around I was just trying to be so accommodating to everyone.
But did they post how much they hated Trump when he was running?
Right. So I'm like, they're not accommodating to us.
Right.
It's not a two-way street here.
I think it's harder too because Austin is a very liberal city.
Like, when I come to her house, she's like, take your Trump.
I told her take it off because your car will get. I'm convinced your car will get smashed. Like, I'm not joking.
Wow.
Like, Austin. I love throwing this little fact out there. Austin voted more liberal than LA County in this past election.
Oh wow.
This is why I live in the suburbs.
It's actually impressive. She's like, I don't live in Austin
proper.
Unfortunately, I do not claim it.
My tax dollars are going to Travis County, but I think it kind of makes it harder because here I was never really afraid to be loud and vocal about where I stood. There I am a little bit more hesitant to be more vocal. One, I really don't want to cause a ruckus. I'm not trying to get in an argument with someone, and I'm not trying to offend anybody. Not that I'm not going to be vocal and like you feel how you feel and I'm still going to be talking, but I would rather avoid conflict, but also my safety, because it seems as if people on the left tend to be more violent than people on the right.
See, I think they would put that out there oppositely.
They
Because
would.
people on the left are supposed to be like gentle and they love everyone.
Yeah, but they're the one burning the cities down.
And rioting.
Well, I know.
Which is ironic.
But they don't put themselves out there like that. Like they love and accept everyone, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't like guns, and
They're tolerant until they disagree with you.
and then they burn.
Which is crazy because you are bound to disagree with somebody in
Right.
your life at any given time.
Yeah.
But.
Well, yeah. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on that matter.
Okay, so in that, I guess, kind of going on to that, what do you think right now is the biggest threat to Christian values in politics? What do we need to be on the lookout for? Like, ready to stand strong against?
I mean, I hate to say this, and like, there's people that are gonna watch this that are really gonna be mad at me, but the left, that's who you have to watch out for,
Okay.
in my opinion. And it's just because just you look at facts, whether they like it. And I know a lot of Democrats that don't believe what the mainstream Democrat liberals believe, but yet they are still Democrats. So by their party's own actions in the last several years, they are against Christianity.
Yeah.
Now, you can be a Democrat and a Christian.
We know.
You can do that.
Yeah.
But like you then can't. But you can't disagree with me that the Democratic Party's platform is anti-Christian, and I think I don't. And again, I'm not saying we need to go burn things down and cause riots and all
Then we
that.
go vote.
But we need to go vote. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the. What did Reagan say? I'm going to butcher the quote, but the freedom's not passed down the bloodstream. It's always like one generation away from extinction. You know what I'm talking about?
No, but that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, that's paraphrased, but that's what he said. Like it's like we,
Yeah, I can try to look it up.
our freedoms are only one generation away from being extinct, and
Like taken
as-
away from us. Yeah.
our Christian values are what got us here as a country, and I mean, just read the Bible. Every time they turn away from God, they get destroyed.
Yeah.
They get overtaken.
All chaos
Like
erupts.
all hell breaks loose. And I just don't want
See
that to
that.
happen here.
Well, I think it was already happening,
Right.
I mean, after 2020, it's the lost years of complete mayhem.
Yeah.
Complete chaos. And I think that was a little sample of what it could be like if we did lose our freedoms with mandates and things along those lines.
But I'll also say Christians need to be careful of, and I see this on the Republican side. So yes, we need the left anti-Christian, 100%.
Watch out for them.
Yeah.
Yes, but also we as Christians need to watch out that we don't make our conservative Republican politicians our idols.
Amen.
And I think that
Amen.
I can see us getting to that point too.
Me too.
Because I think, I'm not going to name any names, but depending on what side of the aisle you're on, you think this person is either the second coming of Christ or the second coming of Satan.
Yes.
And I think those are two things that are way out of line, right?
Yeah.
I love that we have President Trump.
Yes.
I love that we have Governor Jeff Landry as our governor. I love all that. But like I answer to a higher power.
Right. You
And
love
at-
Jesus more.
And at the
Period.
end of the day, God's in control. So like, yes, did I want Trump to win? But if Kamala would have won, God's still in control. We're gonna
We'd just be praying all along.
we're gonna figure that out,
Yeah.
But I do think we as Christians we need to look out for the folks that are clearly anti-Christian, but then we need to make sure that we're not idolizing anyone else.
Yes.
And I do fear that that's happening in some cases, and not just on the national level, just like local level. I mean, I know
for
people
sure.
that think Senator so and so can do no wrong. I'm like, no, they're human, just
all
like you and I.
flawed.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I wonder if that came a little bit more just because it seems like since 2020 we have been in just like this downward spiral that maybe people are clinging to these politicians because they think they can save it. And they can't ultimately, right? But I think it's just like we got so scared.
No, I think that's what it is. Between
Right.
COVID shutdowns and all these stuff, the politicians are going to save us. No politician is going to save you.
Right.
And but I think that's where it stems from.
But policies can be implemented that would reverse all of the things that scared us, you know?
Correct. Yeah.
Like that, and that's where their value does come, is they will push those policies, and that's what it's about. I found the quote.
Oh, yes.
The Ronald Reagan quote. It is, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same." You were pretty spot on.
That's basically what I said.
You were pretty good. Yeah.
You had that first part.
Yeah, the
and, like, tied it in.
bloodstream.
It's like Cory Dennis, Ronald Reagan.
Before I was back in my faith, I was a lot more gung-ho on... I kind of did make my ideology my idol, but I was a lot... It's weird because I was a lot more firm.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like... and I'm not saying I'm not firm now, but I think growing my faith has just... I think the main lesson I'm learning is like compassion and softening of the heart, where I might have been a little too harsh.
Like we've done opposite. Though,
Yeah, we
because
talked about that because like for a long time I was aggressive and I was a little bit meaner and I was harder.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the lesson I have to learn is softness and compassion, whereas she lived
I'm like,
a life
well, now
of compassion and softness, and
I've been
she's
so soft. And I'm like, well, this is the truth.
Yeah.
And this is only the truth.
Yeah.
Don't even come at me. So we're helping each other out.
We are, because you can guide me on like the appropriate way to be soft, and I can guide you on when it's okay to be firm, right? And I think that's what
Not to yell at the window at
balance
people
is.
or anything. I'm just kidding.
You know, no one's perfect.
No. But did you have a God wink?
Oh yeah. Or and a favorite Bible
And a
verse.
Bible verse, yeah. Or
So
something
my
else.
favorite Bible verse is actually tattooed on my arm.
Okay.
It's Psalm 115:1. I hope I got the reference right. Yeah.
Psalm 1:8.
If it's
115.
tattooed on you and you don't remember it,
Well, so
Cory.
No, it's 115:1, but for the longest time I always thought it was 119 for some reason. Like I just have the words, not the,
okay.
Yeah,
but
not the-
still.
Yeah, it's
115:1.
115:1.
Okay.
Not to us, Lord, not to us, but to your name be the glory, because your love and faithfulness is. We would in high school, our basketball team, we would say that at the end of every basketball game, whether win or lose. So that's just kind of a good reminder of.
It's all for you.
It's
Yeah.
all for him. Yeah. So.
I like that. Well, thank you.
And I got the reference right.
What reference?
The Psalms 115:1.
No, actually you didn't. That wasn't. No, just
No, cut that. Re-record.
The whole thing.
From the top.
Oh my gosh. Well, Cory?
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for enduring our
Oh, yeah.
hairbrush microphones.
Oh, absolutely.
You are the first male guest to do the hairbrush microphone.
Tait you.
So we appreciate it.
Hairbrushes are cool, guys.
Yeah. It's very masculine.
Thank you.
Yeah. I thought it matches your outfit. Yeah.
I'm actually really impressed that I did this whole thing and didn't laugh at the hairbrush one time. Because in my head, when I was driving here today, I was like, man, they're going to have us a hairbrush? It's going to be hard for me to take this seriously. I'm going to do it.
It works, though.
It's
very comfortable.
It kind of feels like
You
a
can
mic.
hold it, right?
Yeah.
You can just kind of hold it and, I mean, be mindful of where it is, but
I think
it's comfortable, right?
Yeah, it's great. Well, again, thank you all for having me on. I'm
Yeah,
really
thank
excited
you.
to see your podcast grow. I've enjoyed all the episodes that I've listened to
You're
so
very
far.
kind. Thank
And
you.
look forward to come seeing you in Austin sometime.
Heck
Yes,
yeah, come
anytime.
on. And you can come to the studio. You can come in your jammies.
Yeah,
Yes. Bring your jammies. We're ready for
Don't
you.
forget your sweatpants.
wear like a pink shirt or something. Like how's
Yes.
Yeah,
Hey, what's the saying? Real men wear pink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you have to say that,
Are you really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you have to put it on the shirt, just wear
Yeah,
just wear pink.
just wear it.
Just wear the pink.
Or the cat, whatever you feel. Or the MAGA hat.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'll have to get you a pink. Get you a pink MAGA
I was
hat.
gonna say we've got some pink, like you have your shirt. I've got my hat.
Our DJT.
Our daddy's
stuff.
home.
Yeah.
My
We
friend,
like to have
my
fun
friend
with
wore a
it.
Mardi Gras shirt that said "Daddy's home" and it's Trump with Mardi Gras beads.
How was that received in the city of New Orleans?
This was in Church Point, Louisiana, so it was received very well.
Fair point. Well, again, thank you. We appreciate the time that you've given us, and I had a blast. This was really fun.
This was a lot of fun. Thank
It's
y'all.
really fun. Yeah. Thank you so much, Cory.
Thanks.
All right, guys. We will see you next week.
Bye.